So so then let's start the session, guys. We are in the AAT Level 3 audit class. And so far, we are in the process of finishing this chapter 3, that is internal control systems and business processes. So I think most probably this is your final class from this chapter 3. This is very important chapter because most of the questions will be here. Definitely, you will have 25 marks questions here. So in the previous sessions, we have studied about deficiencies of internal control in a business process. And the important part is how to identify the significant deficiency, not a simple deficiency, significant deficiencies. There will be some indications, there will be some red flags, how to identify these. So these five things I have explained to you in a very detailed manner. So we are going to do the past paper questions in today's session, my dears. So the deficiency is always because of the ineffective control, or sometimes the control is very effective. It's not applied by the people, even though the design of the control is effective and it is applied regularly very effectively, but still human error can happen, as well as sometimes intentionally people will overcome the fraud, overcome the internal control. We call it as a fraud. So these things can happen. And I have given you plenty of enough examples to identify the deficiencies. Now we will dive very deep into the questions area, my dears. And let's see the 2025 January question, where we have to identify four internal control weaknesses of TASE Private Limited for a 4 marks question, and state a recommendation each to overcome the above weaknesses identified in B1 above. So first you have to identify the weaknesses and you have to provide a recommendation. So let's read the case studies. You have to read the case studies only to answer this question. You can see identify four key business processes. We did this question already without reading the case studies. We explained three control activities that can be implemented by the TS Private Limited without reading the case studies. State four examples for general controls that can be used for prevention or detection of unauthorized changes to programs. We did this question without reading these case studies. State three signs that may result in deficiencies in any internal control system in general. This question also we answered without reading this case study. So case studies in this 25 marks only to answer this 8 marks question, to identify the internal control weaknesses and the recommendation to overcome that weakness. Right? So let's read the case studies carefully. Taste Private Limited, the company, is engaged in manufacturing of coconut powder for the local market. So they are engaging in the manufacturing of coconut powder. Local market means for the Sri Lankan people, not for export purpose. Right? And now the company provides its products to 10 supermarkets and 100 agents. So they are providing their products. It means they are distributing the products to 10 supermarkets in Sri Lanka, as well as there are some agents. They are working for a commission. And more than 100 employees are working in the company. So 100 employees are a big number. And 10 supermarkets, they are providing their coconut powder. And 100 agents are working all over the Sri Lanka. So well-established company, it seems. And last month, one supermarket returned all coconut powder products purchased due to low quality. So, due to the low quality, one supermarket returned all the coconut powder products. So, when you read this, in your brain, it should trigger why they have returned. Just imagine. Sometimes, there are problems, and specifically the problems they set due to low quality. So, if they are having 100 employees working in the company, how come without a quality control procedures, this product issued? So, are they having any quality control procedures or quality control checking? Are they recording it? How they are checking? Is there any manual how to do the quality control procedure? Or if they did, what is the evidence? How they are recording it? How they are checking it? So how come without checking the quality control, it is issued from the warehouse? So there are some deficiencies in the internal control system. It's a red flag, right? Let's read it. An investigation was carried out and it was found that the sample of products was not checked by a qualified quality assurance person. So, so they made an investigation and it was found that the sample of products was not checked by a qualified quality assurance person. So sometimes there are some quality assurance persons for the quality checking, but he is not qualified how to check it properly. Even they didn't check the samples and it was checked by the storekeeper. So storekeeper is not the person to do the quality checking because he doesn't know about how to check, what to check, or how many samples we have to check. He doesn't know about it. He is the person responsible for issuing and receiving and updating the store ledger. That's it. He is not the responsible person for the quality assurance. So wrong people for the wrong task. So it is a red flag for the deficiency. It is still a deficiency. And let's see. The board of directors requested the internal audit team. Internal audit team means the team inside the company, the employees of the company, not like external auditors. So there is a good control system because having an internal control systems is a good control. But still, even though we have internal control audit team, still the quality control issue happened. So this is also one of the red flag. This is a sign of major deficiency. So the board of directors requested the internal audit team to review the internal control system of Taste Private Limited for their operating effectiveness and submit a report. Now, the following were identified by the internal audit team. The first one, inventory management system includes only inventory quantities, therefore items cannot be reconciled with the general ledger. So inventory management system includes only the inventory quantities. So they don't have the value. It means in rupees terms. They are only having, okay, we have these items, 100 quantities, 200 quantities. They don't have the value. So items cannot be reconciled with this general ledger. So we cannot see which item we are having in the warehouse. It belongs to which cost. We don't know about it. So that's one deficiency identified by the internal audit team. And the second one, inventory valuations are maintained manually. There is no systematic automatic calculations for FIFO or WSE method. So manual, there can be some human errors. So that's one of the weaknesses. An internal audit team carried out a physical verification. It means physically they went to the inventory and they have checked. So carried out a physical verification of full inventory as a regular practice. It was discovered that a large quantity of expired stock powder included in the inventory of the company. So even though there is an internal audit team, even though they have some internal control system, maybe it's not well designed to prevent or detect or correct these deficiencies. Otherwise, sometimes because it's not effectively applied or human errors, it anything or sometimes fraud. So they are keeping the expired stock powder in inventory of the company. Serious, significant deficiency. Though there are registered suppliers, some materials have been purchased from an unregistered supplier. Can you remember, my dears, when I was talking about the procurement process, right? First, we have to take the quotation, we have to evaluate the quotation, and we have to compare the prices as well as the other conditions, their time of delivery, their reliability, their how long they are in the market. We have to check all the things to decide registered supplier, and we have to register the suppliers in our system. The system should only allow to procure, to purchase something from the registered suppliers only. But we have registered suppliers, so the system is there, the control is there, but some materials have been purchased from an unregistered supply, means it's not followed, it's not applied by the people. That is a significant deficiency. And the sample was not checked before the issuing to the production. My dears, why these quality issues happen? This is the reason, the main reason. If your input is bad, your output is going to be bad. Even though you are perfect in your operations, you are perfecting in your manufacturing operations, your input material is a bad in quality, so automatically it will convert the output as a bad quality one, right? So this is the actual main root cause. So there is a policy in the company because we have to buy from the registered suppliers. But still some materials purchased from unregistered suppliers, and from that unregistered suppliers, they didn't check the samples before issuing to the production. Always, by the storekeeper or the people who is, in charge for checking the quality, they have to check whether that material is actually in a quality in terms of expiry date, in terms of conditions, in everything before it issued to the production. So they didn't check before issuing the production. Major significant deficiency. And when payments are made on suppliers, some purchase orders didn't agree with the invoices. Can you remember when I was talking about making payments to suppliers? There should be a three-way match. Can you remember, my dears? I was talking about three-way match. It means first we have to check the purchase order. In the purchase order, how many quantities we have ordered, in which value. As well as we have to check, is it same as it is in the good received note. We have to check the purchase order quantity is same we have received in the GRN with a value. And the same amount they have sent the invoice. The suppliers will send the invoice for the demand of the payment. So we have to check in the invoice, in the GRN, in the purchase order, the quantities and the goods are same as well as the values are same or not. So even though the purchase orders didn't agree with the invoices, some payment made to the suppliers. It means even though there are controls, they are not doing it, right? There's no three-way match. So sometimes there's a huge risk, maybe overpayment, as well as they are going to make some payments for the goods actually they didn't receive it. These are the huge risks. No, we have studied this. And let's talk about IT systems. When they're trying to come into the IT systems, they are going to ask some questions about general controls and application controls. That's your syllabus. The company uses a number of IT systems for a different functions, such as fixed asset register, invoicing. Fixed asset registers means what? It's a register. It will contain all your fixed assets with a fixed asset register, fixed asset numbers and the value and how long we are using, right? What is the useful lifetime or the depreciation rate, how much accumulated depreciation, what is the carrying value, everything is there. Every fixed asset with a registration number, fixed asset number, it should be included in the fixed asset. That's what the reason of the fixed assets. But it's not the part of the double entry or general ledger. It's a separate control system. Having a fixed asset register is a control. Right. So, especially they have created some IT system for different function. To operate a fixed asset register, they have IT systems. Good. As well as for the invoicing, they are having IT systems. To run the payroll, and these are not integrated to the general ledger systems. Now it's very difficult to do the reconciliation. Sometime, in a physical count of the non-current assets, there might be some missing actually, but still it is included in the fixed asset register. So sometimes, the fixed asset is a separate thing, but somehow we have to integrate with the general ledger, so it should match what are the items actually in the general ledger and is it telling with the asset register or not. So it's not it's not integrated. Manually they are doing sometime. As well as when we are doing invoicing, it's not integrated to the general ledger, so automatically we are not passing all the invoices. So manually they are entering maybe. As well as when we are running the payroll also, it is not integrated to the general ledger. Because if it is integrated only, automatically it will go to the salary account, actual salary, actual EPF expenses, how much the ETF expenses, how much net pay we did, but it is not integrated to the general ledger system. So there is a significant deficiency, red flag, that the general ledger is the one actually connected with our financial statements. So if that financial statements are not integrated with this fixed asset invoicing and payrolls, there may be some wrong numbers in the financial statements, right? So that's a red flag. And batch entries posted to the general ledger by the accounts executive at the end of each day. So batch entries means, they are posting, let's say 100 transaction and they are posting 100 at a time, right? And the all staff of finance division can access to all systems and database using a single user account. So they are having one user account. It means one username and one password. So if someone is making some problems or someone is making any entries, there is no track record. It will say the same person name. So there is no segregation of duties, as well as they have the problem here. They have control risk in the IT application controls. They are not using proper password policy. That is about general control, right? Everything we have studied in the case studies. So now, my dear, how to answer these questions? You just identify 4 internal control weaknesses. I have identified so much of internal control systems weakness here. First one is, the storekeeper is checking the quality assurance. He is not a qualified person. That's the one problem, right? As well as, and they have identified by the internal audit teams, right? This one, the quantities are physically available. It's not reconciled with the general ledger. Another one. And inventory valuations are maintaining in a manual one. Human error can happen, right? There are a lot of things, right? There are expired stock powders available. So there is a problem in the deficiency. Even though registered suppliers, some purchases made it. So there is no preventive control or even detective control. Payments are made without three-way match, right? IT system is there. There is no authorization control or segregation of duties, nothing. They are processing batch entries. But before batch entries, they are not mentioning about any input control. Before we entered anything, we have to give the number, the count, how many, number of transactions we are going to enter and how many value we are going to enter. And after we enter, the system is not showing whether it is correct or not. There is nothing in the case studies. We all studied these things, right? And state a recommendation. Recommendation means the best practice we studied, right? You have to recommend. So let's see how they have answered this question for 2025 January paper. Let me open the actual past papers, my dears, here. Okay, I think all of you can see the screen right now. So I have opened the actual suggested solution. And this is actually 2025 January paper. That's what we are seeing here. And in this paper, we have to check for the question number 8. Question number 8 is here. Okay. So this is the question number 8. And the first question is about, the major business process. That's what inventory management process, procurement, payroll, property plan and equipment is there, and cash management, everything is there. And let's talk about these control weaknesses. They have identified a lot of control weaknesses. You have to do only for, you know you have to identify only for one. The first one is production samples were not inspected by a qualified quality assurance professional. Qualified people, as I mentioned earlier. So what's the recommendation? Implement a formal quality assurance process by ensuring that all production samples are inspected by a qualified quality assurance professional. Conduct some regular training sessions for a staff and establish clear quality control procedures to maintain product standards. This is the only thing we can recommend now. So that's the weakness. You have to provide the answer in the table manner. So control weakness, recommendations. So the production samples were not inspected by a qualified quality assurance. So we have to establish a formal quality assurance process, as well as we have to arrange some qualified people to check the quality. And regularly we have to provide sessions, training sessions. So that's a good recommendation. Let's say recording only inventory quantities in the inventory management system. Only inventory quantities. They are not recording the value. So it's very difficult to do the reconciliation. See the recommendation. Enhance the inventory management system by incorporating additional details such as items, descriptions, batch number, expiration date, supplier information, right? As well as implement some periodic audits to ensure the data accuracy and completeness, right? This is simple. Not only the values, they're asking, please enter the description. Sometimes same items, but with a different description can happen. But actually, that is different items. So we have to include the descriptions, batch number, expiration date. So without expiration date, how can we ensure it is in the actual quality? So let's talk about the another one. Inclusion of large quantities of expired coconut powder stock in the inventory. That is a deficiency. So what we can do? Establish a robot inventory control systems with automatic alerts approaching the expiration dates. Implement a first in first for inventory management method to minimize the stock obsolescence. Because first in first out method means whatever the goods we received very first, we have to issue that first. So first in should go to first out. So let's say you have inventory from January, so you have to issue that January even if you are in November right now. So you are not going to have expired items. As well as conduct some regular inventory checks and dispose or return the expired items promptly to prevent some contamination or misuse. So you have to identify the actual weakness and you have to suggest some worthy control. As well as when making payments to suppliers, some purchase orders didn't match the corresponding invoice, as I mentioned earlier. Strengthen the procurement and payment verification process by implementing a three-way matching system. So purchase order, invoice, and good receipt should be checked. So ensure proper review and approval of all payments and conduct regular reconciliation to prevent discrepancies. And talk about the inventory valuations. So inventory valuations are maintained manually. That's a problem. So what's the recommendation? Inventory valuations can be automated. Focus on the proper setup of automatic inventory valuation, which will ensure the journal entries in accounting or application. It matches the stock valuation updates in inventory application. Another weakness. When payments are made on suppliers, some purchase orders didn't agree with the invoices. So all payments must be released after rechecking the source documents relevant to each transaction. That is three-way match. As well as all staff of finance division can access all systems and databases using a single user account to maintain the records of inadequacy of process and IT controls. What's the recommendation? Establish sounds controls over accuracy of input system, as well as limit the access to the authorized personnel only, prevent some unauthorized amendments to data files, prevention or detection of unauthorized changes to programs, password production, user identification controls such as password restricted, and purchasing from unregistered supplier. Organization should maintain registered suppliers and purchase must be done through registered suppliers only. So, very simple, my dears, very simple. I have provided you plenty of examples when I was doing the, theory classes. Very simple approach. You have to find the weaknesses and you have to give the best control to correct that problem. Right? I hope so you are getting the confidence to write these questions. And now let's talk about this 2024 January paper. In this also, we have questions that is identify some internal control weaknesses, 5 internal control weaknesses of PWL, and I state the recommendation to each overcome the weakness. 10 marks question. You have to provide both questions answers in a table manner. So let's read the question. Plumbing World Limited is in the wholesale and retail business of plumbing equipment. So we are selling for a wholesale as well as for the retail people of plumbing equipment. So purchasing executives places orders based on the inventory officer's request and the purchase order is approved by the purchasing manager. This is the process. So purchasing executive places orders. Purchasing executives means people who are having executive level. He is placing an orders based on the inventory officer request and the purchase order is approved by the purchasing manager. Then the documents are sent to the assistant accountant for recording. So purchases are made from suppliers registered with the company. Okay. However, the company has no proper control in place in selecting suppliers for registration. So this is the weakness. No, they are saying there is no proper controls in place in selecting suppliers for registration. So what we have to suggest for this deficiency? We have to say there should be a formal process of selection. We have to collect the quotations, we have to evaluate the prices, not only the prices, other conditions. That is the recommendation we can say. And the company maintains large inventory of less value and small inventory items with high value, and therefore access to store is protected via biometrics. Okay, biometrics means they're having a fingerprint. But the problem is, even though there are high value items, less value items are in the same place. That can be a control weakness. And the management reviews daily inventory level reports. Monthly physical inventory counts are taken by inventory officer and stocks are adjusted in the system based on the physical inventory count. Right? An internal auditor has reported that certain controls have not been implemented by the relevant staff due to not understanding the risk behind the control. So this is also one of the deficiency. So what's the recommendation we can give? We have to provide proper training to these people. Because without understanding why we are having these controls, why we have to follow these procedures, no one is going to follow that. They don't know the benefit, why we have to follow this control, why we are actually having that. So we have to provide the staff training. That's a control weakness and recommendation. And let's read. Quality of inventory is checked by the inventory officer, but he has no adequate knowledge to check the quality of certain items. This is the same scenario before. The quality control check should be done by the people who qualify to check the quality, not by someone who has no adequate knowledge, right? So that's a weakness, deficiency. What's the recommendation? So we have to provide staff training as well as we have to appoint some people who has the knowledge, right? As well as there should be a procedures how to do that. Same as the previous answer. Due to his lack of knowledge, the company has made losses on low quality products. Yes. So there is no proper quality control procedures as well as there is no internal control before releasing the products to the customers. They are not checking whether it is meeting the QC, quality control. So there is a reputation risk. So the company is currently considering employing a quality specialist and the salary expectation of such a specialist is high. Yes, that's usual. And daily sales report could not be generated from the sales system. So that is the weakness of the system now. They are having an application program for the daily sales, but that system is not generated. We cannot generate it. So that's a deficiency in the IT control system. So what we have to suggest? Please appoint some good software team to find out, and you have to recommend What are our requirements before we develop any software systems? Can you remember those things? These are some general controls. When we are developing new programs or acquiring new problems, first we have to list out what are our requirements. So that's the weaknesses. So we have to develop a system that can generate the daily sales systems. So that's the weaknesses and the recommendation. Further, the customers are complained that the price stated in the sales invoice sent to them is different from the quotation. That is also a problem in the sales system. There is an application control is missing. So, you know, it should be checked, right? It should be checked whether the prices are actually updated. There is no supervision or automatic checking, or there is no, daily updated prices. There's no controls over there. That's what the sales invoice sent to them is different from the quotation. So that's a problem. And the recommendation is they have to develop a systems that should update it, the prices. There should be a manual check by the staff whether the sales system is with the correct prices or not. And the sales director discovered that price list updated to the sales system contained errors, and therefore differences exist with the approved price list. This is significant deficiency. Sometimes we will lose millions of money. The price list is different. The approved price list is not updated, not entered properly in the system. That's why it's having error. No one is checking there. So deficiency. And further, some of debtor balances do not appear in the debtors list. Again, the system is not producing the correct debtors list, the aging analysis list. So some debtors balances are missing means the control is not preventing or detecting. So that's a deficiency. This is due to the sales staff deleting the customer from the customer master files. Again, there is no controls over the customer master file. There is a failure in the general control. As well as anyone, sales staff deleting the customer. So there is no password production. There is no access controls. There is no authorization who can change and who cannot change due to reason orders received from the customer. Further, the sales system was out of order for day due to a virus attack. So there is no cyber securities. They are not installing any antiviruses for this particular application. Right? Some of the data got lost and backups were not available. Even backup system is not available. Again, so much of deficiency. Not only 5 deficiencies means, Midas, you can write more than 20 plus here. As well as the best practices. I have explained in you each processes. Right? So 10 marks easily you can gain. So see the common answer. First one, the purchasing executive places the orders based on the inventory officer's request. What's the recommendation is? The inventory officer's request should be properly authorized by an independent or higher level manager. So simply, the inventory officer is requesting purchasing executives places orders. Before it reaches the purchasing executives, this inventory officer's request should be authorized by his purchasing head or its department head. Only the request. Can you remember when I'm talking about MRN, material requisition note, or any purchase requisition note should come after the approval of the department head? I talked about that, right? So they are not talking about any authorization. So that's a weakness. And let's see. The company has no proper control in place in selecting the suppliers for the registration. Yes. What we have to do? We have to develop a transparent system for registration of suppliers. We have to have a manuals. How we are going to select, how we are going to collect the quotations, how we are checking, how we are selected these particular customers, what is the reason behind it. Whether we are checking only the price or the quality or the delivery items or the reliability, right? As well as monthly physical inventory counts are taken by the inventory officer. No, because inventory officer is in charge for the inventory. So if he is doing the same job because he is in charge for the inventory also, he is the one taking the count. If something is missing or if something is expired, he cannot complain to other people because that is his duty. It's like checking his own work. No, right? That's no point. So monthly physical inventory counts are taken by independent officers. It means we have to implement a segregation of duties control here. And let's see, stock counts are adjusted in the system on physical inventory count. Should introduce a proper approval level for all the system adjustments. Right? Not adjusted on the physical inventory count. There should be an approval. Right? Whether that physical count is done correctly or not. Then only can update the system. Otherwise, it's waste of time and money. And certain controls have not been implemented by the relevant staff due to not understanding the risk behind the controls. Here, see, what's the recommendation? We have to organize some few awareness program for the staff to increase their knowledge of internal controls. That's a training. And the inventory officer has no adequate knowledge to check the quality of certain items. We have to proper training in the inventory officer, or we have to hire someone. Why we can't hire someone? Because huge salary demand. And daily sales reports couldn't be generated from the sales system. Develop the system to enable the option of daily sales reports. And prices stated in the sales invoice are different from the quotations. So we have to implement a control to cross-check the quotation before setting the sales prices. And debtor balances do not appear in the debtor list. We have to getting a daily report of debtors and cross-check with the daily credit sales. The sales system was out of order for a day due to a virus attacks. We have to install a virus guard. Not available in any backups. Establish a system to store the backup at a remote place. So you have to read and understand and write and practice these things. Again and again, they are going to ask this, my dears. In your case studies also, they will tell something someone is requested without authorization. Right? They will tell the story somehow. They have selected the suppliers. They have purchased from unregistered suppliers, right? As well as the person in charge for the inventory is doing the physical inventory count. There's no segregation duties, right? So there is no proper approval systems before entering anything, as well as there is no backup systems, and there is problem with antivirus softwares, right? And people who are doing the job don't have the proper knowledge, or there is lack of training problem, right? As well as the system is not generating the report, system is not checking, as well as there are a lot of things they can say. All are deficiencies. All are deficiencies, and you have to prepare the answers, right? This question, actually, if you do the 10 years papers, and in the 10 years papers, you have to summarize what are the actual weaknesses they have mentioned. And please read it before you go to the examination. Definitely you can take full marks, because the same deficiencies they will tell in a different way, but same weaknesses, same recommendations, right? That is 2024 January. And let's talk about this 2023 July paper also. A question, simply they have asked, explain 3 signs that may indicate a significant deficiency. This is already, I think we have done. The signs, how to identify. I have done this question, I think, right? The subcontractors, explain 3 control activities, preventive control. Okay, let's read this question first. D Fashion Private Limited is a leading company in a wholesale garment industry. Mr. Danushka, director and the main shareholder of the company, started this business 12 years ago on one sewing machine, right? 12 years ago. When the demand for his garments increased, instead of investing for his own machinery and buildings, he subcontracted the manufacturing process to household garment manufacturers. So he is not building his own manufacturing factory, but he subcontracted to people who are doing in the home, right? Today, the company is having over 50 registered subcontractors. So 50 people are there. Over 50,000 units of garments are sold monthly for leading retail garment sellers. Good. 50 registered subcontractors. So there is a process for registering. Good. When the orders are received from the customers, designing teams start the designing process. But, before that, there is no approval. So we can say that's a deficiency. With the customer's approval of the design, it's handed over to the subcontractor. Next step is the sample approval. So after they have handed over to the subcontractor, they are making the sample approval, right? So subcontractor is required to produce 2 samples for the approved design. Once the sample is approved by the company, the subcontractor can start the commercial manufacturing. So there is a deficiency. What is that? After the company approved, we have to send to the customers. And customers should approve, okay, this is the design I have requested. The color is correct, the logo is correct, everything is correct. There's no procedure. So sometimes the customers can reject the whole items. So there is a significant deficiency. Let's see. And 1 month credit period is given to the customers. So customers will pay you after the subcontractor release the goods. 1 month, 30 days. However, as of 31st March 2023, there was an outstanding balance of rupees 14 million, which was outstanding for more than 6 months. Huge, significant deficiency. Why? Our credit period policy is only 30 days. But how come 6 months old balances are available? That is 14 million, huge amount. So there is no credit control. There is no team follow-ups for the payments. There is no follow-up, and also the reminder systems implemented by the company. So these are significant deficiency. And the subcontractors do not provide the credit period. Again, disaster. Why? Because we are, as a company, we are going to receive the money from the customers after the 30 days. But still we are not collecting after 6 months. So our collection team is ineffective. But still, there is no credit period from the subcontractors. It means when the subcontractors, the people who are doing in the home, right, the manufacturing process, we have to give them cash 100% to collect the garments to deliver to the actual customers. So there is no credit period. So that's a problem now. Because we are going to receive the money after 30 days, but before that, we are going to make the payment instantly to the subcontractors. So there is a leverage problem. Even though we paid the full amount to the subcontractors, we are not collecting more than 6 months period from the customers. There is a significant problem. And it is required to provide advance payment to the subcontractors if the order value exceeds rupees 1 million. Even though, my dears, we are not expecting any advance payment from our customers, but even though it is more than 1 million rupees, we have to pay the advance payment to the subcontractor. Again, there is a problem because we have to pay the advance payment as well as the samples are not, the samples are not approved by the customers, only the company. So we have, let's say we have produced 10 million worth of items, but the customer is saying, no, this is not my design. You didn't tell me any samples for my approval. So the customer is rejecting 10 million worth. For the 10 million worth of goods, already you have paid 10 million amount to the subcontractors because that's a case deal. Not only that, you made advance payment. Sometimes you took loan from the bank, you are going to pay the interest also. So there is a huge mismanagement here. You have to understand it, right? Let's read it. There are 5 members in a finance team: the accountant, 3 bookkeepers, and a cashier. In-house developed software is used to record the inventories, movements, and finance transactions. Once the GRN is approved, the payments are paid by the accountant to subcontractors. So GRN is approved, payments are paid by the accountants. There is no three-way match. They are not checking whether the ordered good is correct with a GRN and the invoice is correct. No. Just approving is enough to make the payment. They are thinking like that. So there is no three-way match. Again, problem. However, there are payable balances in accounts of 2 subcontractors. So still, there are payable balances. There were instances that customers has rejected the entire stock due to the specification changes. That's what I told you earlier. Without taking the approval of the 2 samples from the customers, company the one deciding the approval part. So sometimes the entire stock is rejected because of the design problem and sample problem. Over rupees 15 million stocks in the stores that has not been collected by the customers because of this problem. Huge problem. 15 million in 1.5 crores. Now, Mr. Danushka has requested your audit firm to contact an internal audit and provide suggestion to improve any weak areas. There are a lot of weak areas we have identified, right? With just a reading. Most of the things I have talked about, these all are the deficiencies, my dears. So 3 signs that may indicate the significant deficiencies in internal control system in Deficient Limited. Actually, you have to talk about the weaknesses. Here see, the subcontractor is required to produce 2 samples for the approved design. But only Deficient Limited, the company is only approving the sample, not approval given by the customer. That's what they are rejecting the entire bulk items. That's what we have 15 million stock that's not collected by the customer. Simple, very simple control. It's making loss almost around 15 million. Think about the importance of the internal audit. That's what companies are paying millions of amounts for the internal audit, external audit people. So there is a possibility of rejecting the orders by the customers due to deficiency in the quality of the design. And again, See, D Fashion Limited doesn't have a proper mechanism to collect the debt from the long outstanding customers. That's what I said. There is no proper credit control team. That's what your policy is saying, only 30 days credit period. But actually, you are having outstanding balances more than 6 months. How come? Because there is no proper collection mechanism. And let's say third one, the subcontractors do not provide a credit period to D Fashion Limited. They are not providing at least 30 days. Before we collect the goods from the subcontractors, we have to pay the full amount. But D Fashion Limited provides a 1 month credit period to customer. This may create some liquidity issues because we have to make the payment first, but we are not going to have the money for the 30 days, even after 6 months. So if you are running like that, you are going to release the cash. Cash outflow is high, but cash inflow is going to cash inflow. You're not going to have the cash inflow, right? So this is the huge problem. Right? This may create liquidity issues. As well as these subcontractors expect advance payment if the order value over 1 million, but D Fashion accept the customer's orders without any advance. Again, liquidity issues can happen. And even though subcontractors do not provide a credit period, D Fashion Limited has payable balances. How come? We don't have any credit transaction with the subcontractors. They are demanding full payment before they release the garments. But there are payable balances. How come it's coming? So there are problems in the accounting system. We cannot rely on the financial reporting also. And having over 15 million stocks in the stores that had not been taken away by the customers. Huge sign. And once the GRN is approved, payment are made. Before making the payment, GRN is not matched with the invoices and any other supporting documents. I said three-way matches. So my dears, these all are problems. Easily you can identify, easily you can recommend the solutions. That's the way, I was teaching you. So make sure, please take 25 marks from this section. And let's read the A question here. Again, identify 4 internal control weaknesses of Osumadura Private Limited for 4 marks. Let's read it. After working in a private hospital in Dubai for a number of years, okay, Dr. Roshan came back to Sri Lanka in the last year. So, Dr. Roshan was working in a private hospital in Dubai for a number of years and he came back to Sri Lanka for the last year. And December 2021, he established a private limited company, Osumedura Private Limited, okay, to operate a chain of pharmacies and has set up 3 pharmacies in Maharagama, Nuheguda, Avisavala. So as a doctor, he came to Sri Lanka and he started a new company and he's going to run some pharmacies chain, like supermarket chain. And he set up 3 pharmacies in Maharagama, Nugegoda and Avisavala area. Fine. Maharagama branch is the main branch and it handles purchasing and suppliers payments. So that Maharagama branch is the main branch. That branch is making the purchase of these medicines and the drugs as well as the payment of these suppliers. So that is done by this Maharagama branch. All 3 branches are using a tailor-made software for the stock updates, which is very reliable. Good. It means they made a software, right? They made a software according to their needs. That's also very good control. Not the general purpose systems. They made their tailor-made software. And all the informations are available there in that software. Dr. Roshan can check the stock balance through his computer and place the orders. That's also good. Like a virtual systems or cloud-based system. Now, he recruited Kalpani, who has completed a pharmaceutical course, and she has been working as a pharmacist for a number of years. That's also good. Qualified person. Kalpani enters all goods receiving notes to the stock module. That's the problem now. My dears, he is a pharmaceutical course. And she is working as a pharmacist. So she is the one should issue the medicines to the customers. But still he is entering all the goods receiving notes to the stock module. There is a problem. So she is the one issuing the medicine to the customer as well as she is the one issuing. Sometimes she can take the medicine and she can create some fake good received notes. And she can sell that medicine to other people now. So there is no segregation of duties. That's the control weakness here. And let's talk about the other paragraph. Supplier selection. Placing orders and checks writing based on the supplier's invoices are all handled by Dr. Rishan himself. Then again, problem. They are relying on the supplier's invoices. Suppliers can sometimes they can put whatever they want. These suppliers' invoices should check with the purchase order as well as the GRN prepared by the company. They are not doing any three-way match before they make the payment. That's also a problem. As well as Dr. Roshan himself. He cannot involve, no. Because he's very busy. He is a person, the owner. He has to appoint someone. There is a problem of segregation of duties. One person is handling everything. As well as no credit sales take place in any of the branches. Right? The total collection deposit to the bank by the cashier at the end of the day using the CDM deposit machines. Coins are kept in a separate drawer, but end of the day, they are using the CDM deposit machines. But no one is, there is no any other persons doing this one because cashier is dunning the deposit. Cashier is the one responsible for the selling. So he is the one depositing again. So there is no segregation of duties. One person is handling the cashier job as well as the depositing. Huge deficiency, right? And they are keeping in a separate drawer, but they are not talking about whether the drawer is safe or not. Is it control? Is it lock? Is there physical controls? They are not talking about. Maybe we can write this deficiency. And recently, Dr. Roshan reached out to your audit firm and request to help him to set up the finance department for his company. You were made to understand that he himself is involved in accountant's work. Again, he is doing the accounting work as well as he is checking the, he is writing the, what do you call, placing orders and writing the checks also for the invoices. So there's no segregation of duties again. Right? But he lacks the capacity to handle it with the increased business activities. There may be human errors possible because he is handling most of the items. And since the company is making sufficient profits to make salaries, he wants to handle operations without his involvement and monitor everything through the available software package. Further, Dr. Roshan inquired you regarding the control environment also. Right? The organizational culture. Now, identify the internal control weakness first. Simple. How many weaknesses I talked about now? Let's see the answers. First one, Dr. Roshan handled entire inventory process, including checking the stock balance and placing the orders, writing the checks. So again, that's segregation of duty is missing. One weakness. And all GRNs are entered into the system by Kalpani who has no knowledge on the accounting. Because Kalpani is a pharmacist. Again, second deficiency. And all supplier selection, placing orders, checks writing are done by Dr. Roshan. Again, segregation of duties is missing. And cashier himself make the deposit to the bank. Again, segregation of duties missing. And Dr. Roshan has no capacity to handle the business with the increased business activities. So there's one man show. They cannot grow the business. Entrepreneurs and the owners should be on the business, not in the business. Right? They have to manage. The management is the art of getting the work done through other people, not doing everything alone. Right? So again, there's a problem. And banking the money in CDM deposit machine is also a problem because sometimes, they can lose the money while they are going to the CDM machines. And that CDM machine, sometimes it's not going to produce the slips. They will tell because of the ecosystems, please consider before you print. Sometimes that machine will say we cannot print the slips. So there's no evidence whether they have deposited or not. Right? Problem is there. So they can go to the bank, not in the CDM machines. As well as coin collection from the total collections are kept in a separate drawer without banking it. Sometimes we can have 100,000 rupees of coins. It's not banking. Problems. So my dears, easily you can write. Right? If you are a good student of me and you listen my lectures, while you are reading this, you will identify the deficiencies. Right? Let's see this question from 2022 January paper. That's a question number C, I think. State a recommendation to each overcome the above weaknesses. So the B question is identify the 5 internal control weaknesses in revenue and cash management So we have to find from the revenue process and cash management process and state a recommendation to each to overcome the above weakness. So let's read the process and identify the weaknesses. So AB Private Limited, the company, is engaged in producing consultancy services to clients in the USA. Okay, fine. So they are providing consultancy services to clients in USA as well as in Sri Lanka. Due to COVID-19 pandemic, the company has experienced a growth in the business because most of the people are need online consultants. So there's a growth. So the following information is available for you from the revenue and cash management. So from these 6 items, you have to find out the weaknesses from the revenue and cash management. That's a question. First one, operation department is responsible for identifying the customer requirements, agree on terms and conditions, maintaining the agreements, raising the invoices, and delivering the services. It is led by the manager, operations, and 5 executives. Finance department consists of a manager, finance, accountant, general ledger, and 2 assistant accountant. That is their hierarchy, right? But you can see operation department is responsible for customer requirements, their conditions, maintaining the agreements. So that's not the work of actually operation department. Operation department for consultancy firm, they have to provide the consultancy. It should be with the administration department, raising the invoices, delivering the services. Delivering the services okay by the operation department, but raising the invoices or maintaining the agreements and agree on terms and conditions, onboarding them, it doesn't make sense, right? So let's read it. The company has routine services such as maintaining the general ledger accounts and producing monthly statements to its customers. Okay, fine. There are 100 customers with the standard agreements, and based on respective agreement with the customer, the company entitled to provide a monthly service and revenue. The sales is recognized in every 2 months. That's also a problem. Why every 2 months? You have to record it as it is happened. At least 1 month. Sometimes you can miss it. That's a deficiency. And all customers' agreements are signed by manager and kept under the custody of manager operations. In an open area, that's a sign. That's a deficiency. All customers, the records, my dears, those are agreements. Very confidential information. We cannot keep it in an open area. It should be in a locked area with the proper controls, proper security. So that's the control weakness. All invoices are being raised by an executive at operation department. So operation department is involving with the finance things here. Again, segregation of duty is missing. Then email the copy to the accountant who posts this to journals in company's financial systems. Right? So manager operations compare the budget with the actual revenue in every 6 months, and he performs reconciliation on number of invoices in general ledger to number of invoices raised as per available customer agreements. And let's say some local customers are giving post-dated checks, and those are kept with an executive in operation department till the date of the check. That's also a problem. How come this finance department is not keeping? Keeping the check is not the operation department problem, no? As well as these are post-dated checks. There's no check register from whom we have received. What is the actual date? There's nothing is. After that, the executive hand over those checks to the assistant accountant. Now, again, bank reconciliation statement is prepared at the end of the financial year. Bank reconciliation should be prepared every month, not in the end of the financial year. So many problems. And let's read the IT process. IT process during the year, the company has internally developed a new invoicing system and deployed without test. Okay, without test, there's no general control. Before approve, before go live, we have to test each and every software. Since it's an internally developed software, no documentation is kept. Again, there's a problem in the general control. And the password for system is login is shared between employees in the operation department. So everyone can log in. There's no authorization control. IT room can be accessed by anyone at office. Again, problem with the access. All master data are manually entered to the system by an assistant account. There is no conditions, no prevention controls to prevent anyone can change master control files. Monthly backups are kept at manager's cabin. The company is not using firewall system, so there is a risk for cyber attack. Right? So, my dears, the question is asking from the revenue and cash management. So, see the question answer. Simple. Revenue recognized once in 2 months. That's a weakness. Because revenue need to be recognized on a monthly basis since the services are provided monthly. Monthly, we are going to take subscription amount. So we have to recognize the revenue also monthly. No? Second one, all the invoices are raised by an executive in operation department. There should be a proper authorization and subdivision of work with regard to invoicing. And bank reconciliation statements are prepared only at the end of the financial year. Again, problem. Bank reconciliation should be prepared on a monthly basis. Agreements entered in between customers are kept in an open area. Agreements should be kept under the proper custody. And post-dated checks are kept within the executives in operation department until the date of the checks. Again, a post-dated checks register need to be maintained and checks should be kept under the proper custody. And comparison between budget and actual is done once in 6 months. Budget should be compared again actual only monthly basis. And again, a proper procedures for review and approval of the invoice is not available. Invoices should be reviewed and authorized by financial manager. And there is no monitoring over delivery of monthly reports to customers. Monthly, monitor the delivery of monthly reports to customers. That's a recommendation. Simply you can write it, my dears. It's very simple. And let's talk about the 2021 question. That also they are talking about a question, identify internal control weaknesses in bio. Simply read it. Bio in One Private Limited is engaged in manufacturing of coconut powder for the local market. It was established before 6 years ago and the initial operations were conducted in a small scale. Presently, the company has been expanded within more than 50 wholesale customers, including supermarkets, direct distributors, and agents. Very good. 120 employees working in the manufacturing plant. However, Bio doesn't have a formally set up key business process. So that's a problem. Formally, they don't set what is the business process. Again, deficiency. Let's see. The managing director's spouse. It means the husband, what do you call the husband or wife. Mrs. Nilani involves in invoicing and following up on outstanding collection process, but she doesn't have a background on accounting or a finance. So that's a definitely significant. There should be people with a proper accounting knowledge how to do it correctly. Otherwise, they have to provide knowledge. They have to provide training. That's a deficiency. And the managing director requested your professional accounting firm to conduct an internal control assessment. The partner in charge of your accounting firm noted the following. The first one, the financial statements have not been prepared by the company for the last 3 years. Again, disaster. Right? Material purchases records and supporting documents for the payments made are not systematically maintained. So there is no GRN, there is no purchase orders, there is no, invoices, they are not attached, all the three things, right? So normally, my dears, in proper internal control companies, if you are going to audit, they will attach the purchase order, the GRN, the invoice, even the check copy they have issued to that people. Even sometimes the bank statement amount it is deducted. They will keep all these documents in one clip. Right? So not systematically maintained. Managing director, who is the main shareholder, personally involved in procuring the materials and other supplies. So there is no segregation of duties. Significant deficiencies. And during the discussion with the client, the partner in charge has explained the MD about the importance of having a proper internal control system for bio with a proper record keeping. The MD wants the firm to help them in setting up a process of internal control system. Further, it was decided to have a computer system with a trained staff. Good. As the first step, the partner in charge was requested the MD to do an awareness presentation to MD, Mrs. Nilani, and two managers about the proposed internal control system for Bio. As Bio is going to use computerized system, the partner was also requested to explain about IT general controls and application controls. That is related to other question. So how you are going to answer this question? In a simple manner. See the internal control weaknesses. That's a question of no delegation of authorities. Since the MD's wife involves in invoicing and following up on outstanding collection process, it means no delegation of authorities means there is no segregation of duties. One person is doing everything. And there are no material purchase records and supporting documents. Without supporting documents, how can we make the payments? Without GRN, without purchase orders, without invoices. So lack of knowledge in accounting functions amongst existing personnel. Books of records have not been updated in the financial statements have not been prepared by the company for the last 3 years. MD is involved in procuring and the materials and the other supplies. So see, all are the weaknesses, right? And let's see the 2020 July questions. This is also from the A question. See, identify 3 internal control weaknesses and the above payroll process. So specifically, they are giving the payroll process. We know the best practices of payroll process, right? So Student Help Fund, SHF, is a non-governmental organization, NGO, which deals with provision of educational support for economically challenged children. So HSF maintains a submodule in SEP for a payroll process. SEP is a ERP system. There's a separate module to handle the payroll process. During the statutory audit, it means external audit of financial year ended 31st March 2020, the following information relating to payroll process has been identified by the audit senior. What are those? Organization's composition consists of a director, finance and administration manager, HR manager, HR executive, accounts clerk, and 5 employees. Okay, fine. Employees are paid based on the number of days worked. Manual attendance book is kept at a security office to capture the attendance record. You know the weakness of the manual attendance. It means people are right. They are on time in, on time out. Sometimes they are in the home sleeping very well, and the friends are signing for them. You know the weakness, no? So manual attendance books, instead of biometric systems, fingerprint systems, they are having a manual attendance system. People can cheat easily. Control weakness. And monthly payroll is calculated by accounts executives based on the attendance record received from the security officer. So from the security officer, we are receiving the attendance that is not approved by anyone. And before accounts executives entered into the payroll system, that is not approved or authorized by some HR officer. Again, segregation of duties is a problem. There is no approval, there is no authorization controls. And payroll module is updated by accounts clerk and approved by the HR executive. Payroll reconciliations are not prepared by the SHF. So there's no reconciliation. Actually, how much we have paid as well as in the system. How much we have recorded. There's no reconciliations. Again, a problem. And monthly payments are made to bank accounts of respective employees by a bank transfers approved by the finance and administration manager. Right? Via bank transfer. Let's see. And due to the SAP licensing cost, single user login is used by the finance department and HR department. This is a authorization control. Any people can share the password, and if someone make a mistake or someone change something, we cannot track who did which change. So that's the problem of authorization and access control. Right? We studied everything. So see the question answer here. Internal control weakness. Attendance records are not reviewed and approved by an authorized officer prior to the processing of the payroll. This will lead to a non-detection of errors and susceptible for fraud. What's the recommendation? The attendance record should be reviewed and approved by an authorized officer of the company. Any documents before entering into the system, any request should be approved, authorized. That's a big statement. And monthly payroll is not calculated and approved by the HR executives and HR manager respectively. So there should be monthly payroll. It should be approved by the both HR manager and finance manager and administrative manager. And there's no proper segregation of duties here because payroll module should be updated to the SEP system by the accounts executive who makes the payments as well. So there should be a proper segregation of duties. That's the recommendation. And payroll reconciliations are not prepared. This will lead to the non-detection of errors and making fraudulent payments. So monthly payroll reconciliation should be prepared and reviewed by an authorized official prior to the approval of the payment. And there is no proper general controls over the ERP system and doesn't ensure the segregation of duties due to the availability of a single user account. There's a question on the integrity of the accounting systems. It means who changed what, whether that report is produced by the accounting system is accurate or not. So there's a problem with the integrity. And what's the recommendation? Separate user login should be assigned to the each users, but it will cost. It will cost much, my dears. So if they are having 10 user logins, it will cost more than 100 times. It will exceed the benefits. That's why people are using one single user login and password, right? So to prevent unauthorized access, to increase the credibility of the accounting system, there's no options. We have to use separate logins with separate access level. These all we have studied in the theories and now we have applied. So my dears, you must know the common internal control weaknesses. I have given this one. This is very important, okay? You will see in the question lack of segregation of duties. Sometimes in the question they will mention, my dears, it's like single individual is handling multiple critical tasks. So it will increasing the risk of errors. So if you see these things in your question, this is a problem. So the payroll processing and payment is handled by the same person, or supplier selection, invoicing, check writing is performed by one person. These are lack of segregation of duties. This is weakness. And most of the time, any request, there should be a proper authorization. If you don't see the proper authorization or approval, that's a weakness. So critical process, lack of review or approval by independent officers, that's a problem. Example I'm giving, payroll not approved by the HR and the finance manager. And attendant records not reviewed by the payroll processing, before payroll processing. So there is no proper authorization. And you will see inadequate record keeping. They will miss or incomplete records for critical financial as well as operational activities. Here is the example. No material purchase or records supporting the documents, agreements stored in unsecured location. These are problems. You will see this again and again in your case studies also. And failure to do contact reconciliations. They are not preparing any reconciliation. Or infrequently, every 6 months, every 1 year. No. Bank reconciliation should be prepared only 1 year end. That's a weakness. Payroll reconciliation are not performed regularly. That's a problem. And the weak user access controls. In questions, they will again and again repeatedly they will talk about the same user account is single user login and password is using by all people. So example is ERP system accessed using a single account. No audit trail. Audit trail means who made which change. It should be recorded, right? Those things should be happen. And improper custody of assets and documents. Sometimes they will say they are keeping everything in open places. There is no security system. It's not in the locked rooms. So post-dated checks kept with an operational staff, agreements stored in open areas. If they give some sort of stories, those are problems. And still lack the necessary knowledge or training for critical process. Like, I have identified the common ones like staff is responsible for accounting functions, but she doesn't or he doesn't know about the accounting. Inventory is checking and performed by the untrained people. And inadequate monitoring. So in the question, they will say no one is monitoring the process, right? There is lack of staff, not monitoring the report deliveries to customers, no review of budget versus actual comparisons, and delayed or inconsistent reporting. So the process such as reconciliations and revenue recognitions are delayed. So if you see this kind of stories, those are weakness, my dears. So revenue recognized only once in 2 months, budget comparison done once in 6 months, and inappropriate delegations of responsibilities. The key management personnel, the owners, the directors are involved in operational tasks. These are weaknesses. MD is directly involving in procurement. HR manager is handling the payroll calculations. An absence of advance payment policies. There's no advance payments required from the customers. There's no three-way match before make payments. Customers are allowed credit terms without advance payments. These are problems. As well as unsecured use of IT systems. IT system is lack of proper controls. There is no general controls, application controls. There's no password, no backup, no antivirus. GRNs are not matching with the invoices. Payments are made before, any checking. So you will see these kind of stories again and again and again. So if you master it, how to identify the control weaknesses, how to give the proper recommendation, you are good to go with 25 marks. My dears, I have explained to you with my high level of energy as well as much as possible. I taught you this chapter 3. Please make sure you have to take 25 marks. No excuses. Right? Because this is very simple area. I have identified all the questions areas and how to identify the deficiencies. What are the usual deficiencies? What are the usual recommendation you have to give? Now is your time. Practice it. Write it. Right? Every day, please write. Please read. So when you are reading the actual question in your exam papers, right, while you are reading, you will understand, okay, this is the weakness, this is the recommendation. Just write it. Please make sure. So congratulations, we have completed our 25% of the syllabus. And the next session, we will start the chapter 4, that is 5%. Very simple. Within 2 or 3 classes, I will finish this chapter 4, that is assurance, encashment, and related services. We will have a 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3, 4.5, and 4.5 here. So the important areas is elements of assurance encashment. There are 5 elements we will talk about in the next session. So hopefully I will try to finish within 2-3 classes, this chapter 4 with the past papers. Right? Get ready, prepare well, and let's crack the exams with a high standard. See all of you in the next session. Have a great day. Thank you all. Bye.